YouTube, what is up? Thanks for joining us. It's Wednesday morning, July 3rd. We are joining you live on YouTube to chat so many things. So if you are with us, thanks. Join the comments and the chat live with us on YouTube. Like this video, subscribe to our page so you get alerts when we go live. P.S. We're going live a lot during the Olympics, so you're going to want to subscribe so you get notifications and get ready for the show. Hey everyone, welcome into Attacking Third for a special edition Wednesday episode alongside Sandra Herrera. I'm Lisa Carlin. We have so much to chat about today. As a reminder, we go live every single Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern time on youtube.com/Attacking Third. So if you're listening as a pod, jump on over to the YouTube channel, subscribe, like, and follow us because we have so much fun. People join us live. We chat about things. And we get to chat to each other. Good morning, Sandra. How are you?
Hey, bud, back at it. I missed you. You took some much deserved vacation. We were back at it in the studio a little bit, but this is always a different vibe when we get together.
I was here last week, wasn't I?
I mean, like,
I don't remember.
Look, nor do I. It's summertime. I just every time we hop on one of these, I'm just like, here we go again. Let's do this. And it's different every time. So I'm thrilled to be back with you.
It is absolutely different every time. This week, we are bringing back our Getting to Know You segment where we're diving deeper into midfielder Jaedyn Shaw. She currently plays with San Diego Wave, but you'll learn all about her. Plus, we have NWSL weekend preview coming up because matches are happening. And then, as always, we round out Wednesday's episodes with, in case you missed it, our news and notes segment to fill you in on everything that has happened. And Sandra, the biggest news that has come across our desks is that Attacking Third has been nominated for the People's Choice Podcast Awards in the category for Best Female Hosted Podcast. Thank you, everyone that listens and follows and watches us on Golazo Network. We so appreciate you and everything you guys do for us. And we hope that you enjoy our show enough to nominate us to advance to the final round. So if you like us, and we hope you do, you can nominate Attacking Third by going to podcastawards.com/app/sign up, and then you can toggle down to the sports category. The whole process takes absolutely less than 60 seconds, and vote for Attacking Third for the best female hosted podcast. We've included the link at the top of this podcast episode, and if you're joining us live on YouTube, it is in the chat. Plus, follow our socials at Attacking Third. They will have the link there as well. It's podcastawards.com/app/sign up. Congratulations, Sandra. We did it. We're nominated again.
I love it here. It's what we do here. We get nominated for awards, we win awards. It's what we do at A3, and we don't get all that recognition, honestly, I think, without the community that we build here. So shout out to everyone, and thank you for supporting, and please go vote.
Thank you, everyone, for listening, joining, following us. If you're live with us on YouTube, shout out to you guys. Shout out to everyone who downloads us. We appreciate it. And to everyone else that makes this show special, from in front of the camera, Jenny Chu, Darian Jenkins, Christine Cupo. We've had so many people on and in the mix. And then, of course, everyone behind the scenes, all of our producers, Courtney and Mike and Mark, and everyone that gets things off the ground and rolling. Thank you all. Don't forget, vote for us. Attacking Third, best female hosted podcast for the People's Choice Podcasts Awards. We will be reminding you to vote for us for the next several weeks. So don't forget. Sandra, let's dive into this, because we have started this new segment on our Wednesday shows called Getting to Know You. And we get to pick a player that we want to, quote, get to know a little bit more, really expose them to the listeners and fans of Attacking Third. So this week, we chose to pick United States women's national team and San Diego Wave midfielder Jaedyn Shaw. This 19-year-old absolutely burst onto the scene, and you can watch her in the NWSL. Plus, you can watch her at the Paris Olympics with the United States. But before she became this phenomenon at just 19 years old, Jaedyn Shaw represented the United States as a U17, U19, and U20 national team player. And she was named U.S. Soccer Young Female Player of the Year in 2022. But Shaw's path to professional soccer is super interesting. So at the age of 14, Jaedyn Shaw verbally committed to joining University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill to become a Tar Heel starting in the 2024 season. That hasn't even happened yet that season, but obviously that did not come to fruition because you cannot play professionally and still play in college after that. So she decided in the spring of 2022 that at 17 years old, Jaedyn Shaw was going to join Washington Spirit for preseason and was named to the club's initial preseason roster almost as a practice player. And at this time in the NWSL, there was no mechanism in place to allow teenagers to play professionally or to enter the draft. In June of 2022, the NWSL announced it was going to open the discovery process specifically for Jaedyn Shaw. So this policy would allow Shaw to be eligible for the 2023 NWSL draft, which was 7 months away from this point. However, it also opened the doors for NWSL to amend its rules. So at this point, Jaedyn Shaw was turning 18 in November of 2022. However, she had already taken the necessary steps to turn professional and forego her NCAA eligibility. So the NWSL exercised its authority and amended its entry process to allow teams to select Shaw through the discovery process. So now the discovery process has entered the chat mid-season. The way the discovery process works is teams have to bid to enter to take a bid on Jaedyn Shaw. So in this process, Washington Spirit, who Shaw was training with, and the San Diego Wave entered the discovery process, as well as a number of other teams. But San Diego Wave was placed at the top of the discovery list. And in July of 2022, Jaedyn Shaw signed for NWSL club San Diego. And before long, Sandra, we covered it here on Attacking Third. Jaedyn Shaw made her first professional game, her first professional start in her first ever NWSL game. She got her first NWSL goal. Jaedyn Shaw scored the game winner in the 27th minute against the Chicago Red Stars to give San Diego the 1-0 win. And that also bumped San Diego back to the number 1 spot in the standings ahead of Portland in 2022. At this point, Jaedyn Shaw became the second youngest player to compete in NWSL at the age of 17 years and 8 months. And after scoring the game winner for her team in that 27th minute against the Red Stars, she became the youngest NWSL player to score in their debut. After this incredible performance with San Diego, Jaedyn Shaw received her first call-up to the senior national team in September of 2023, and she made her debut a month later on October 26th, 2023 versus Colombia. 3 days later, Shaw scored her first goal for the United States women's national team in San Diego, California, where she played club football in her second cap ever in October 29th, 2023. Fast forward a couple months, in April 2024, Jaedyn Shaw continued to make more history. She became the first player in national team history to score in each of her first 5 starts. She also did it at 4 starts and 4 goals, but she broke her own record at 5 starts and 5 goals. Currently in the NWSL, Jaedyn Shaw plays for San Diego Wave in her 3rd season with the club. So far, she has 13 goals, 5 assists through 48 competitions, starting all of those competitions, but 10 of them. And for the United States women's national team, Jaedyn Shaw has 14 appearances, 7 goals, and 1 assist. You can watch Jaedyn Shaw in the NWSL with San Diego Wave and at the Paris Olympics this summer with the United States women's national team. Sandra, it's so fun to talk about a player like Jaedyn Shaw, but what impresses you the most about her as a player?
I love our deep dives. It gives me a moment for like story time with you, and I'm just here like, yes, nodding my head anytime I hear you talk about a player. I'm just like, yes, incredible vibes. And that's what I get with Jaedyn Shaw. It's so it's so thrilling to watch a player, not just at her age. A lot we've been talking about this player as a teenage phenom for years now at this point. But it's her ability to be so patient and in possession at times, which impresses me during stretches of games where we've seen her just kind of take over a little bit. Like she can turn it on from like 0 to 100 like so quick. And it's like for moments where it's like, okay, we're trying some things out here. We're penetrating, we're possessing. Why don't we just get the ball in the back of the net? And then she decides to just like throw her boot through it, and all of a sudden we get to witness these Jaedyn Shaw type of goals. So that's what I appreciate, I think, from her so much. I loved hearing you run down everything right now. I feel so like honored that I was even at that game where she scored her first NWSL goal. It was at Soldier Field against San Diego, and that's what I mean when I'm talking about like a player that could just get it done. Like you're
That's
talking
cool with
about
that Soldier Field too. That's awesome.
it is cool. It was like a part of a double header, and there was a certain tempo in that game where Chicago kind of had control of it. So you kind of see this first half hour of the game going. Listen, Nayer's making saves. You know, Chicago's kind of looking like they're gonna get one, and then all of a sudden, Jaedyn Shaw's like, "Well, why don't we just do this? Score a goal." And it happens, and gets one past Alyssa Nayer. Just good stuff. Good
So
stuff.
good.
And we've been able to, I mean, and that's year one of, her being in NWSL. I just feel like in terms of young players that we're seeing out there, I think maybe if we remove Corey Bethune out of that equation, as this is just her first season as well, for young players starting off in their pro careers, I think year to year, you look at Jaedyn Shaw and you could see that very noticeable, tangible development and growth.
Well, Croy Bethune, 23 years old. She
Yeah.
played 5 years in college. Yes, she is a rookie and she has 2 less seasons than Jaedyn Shaw under her belt. But I mean, we cannot forget that Jaedyn Shaw is still a teenager, Sandra. She's still 19 years old. It feels like we've watched her grow up over the last couple of years. I say that with like a big sister smile and proudness about me because Shaw has been so fun to watch become like such a mature player and composed in games and in matches, and she does a lot of media and post-game interviews, and she has this elegance about her and poise that you just don't see in a lot of 19-year-olds. Heck, I know I wasn't like that at 19, let alone all of the skill that Shaw has on the pitch, her technical skill, her ability to play multiple positions. She can play anywhere across the front line. She can play as a 10, and she's so creative in attacking zones with her vision to see passes and plays 2 or 3 steps ahead, and her decisive ability in the final third makes her so lethal. That's why she's been able to score so many goals, get assists, contribute to so many attacking moments for club and for country. And frankly, besides all of her skill, her ability to play multiple positions is largely a huge reason why she's on this United States women's national team, because under Emma Hayes, we will see Jaedyn Shaw play the left wing, the right wing, sometimes as a 9, almost a false 9, but even as a 10 in the midfield. So when you think about Shaw and her ability to enter this first huge international tournament with the United States and play at the Olympics, what are your expectations of her this summer?
I like that we're getting into the weeds here a little bit, because I think there are some now
we
that
didn't plan for this, but now that I'm thinking about it, I want to know your thoughts.
I'm like, hold on a second here. Hold on. It's like, now it's like we did the first part. We're just like, Jaedyn Shaw's amazing. Now it's like, what's it going to mean for the Olympics? I'm very curious to sort of see how it all kind of comes to life. I think we've been chatting so much about like who's going to be on that roster, who's going to be named to it. Now we know. But not only that, we've seen some differences here. Maybe where we thought our projected 18-player roster was going to look, maybe after that Gold Cup, looks a little different going to the Olympics. We've got Emily Sonnet listed as a defender. We see Crystal Dunn as a forward. Shaw is part of that forward line as well. But it was some of this shift and change and the preaching of getting younger and preaching of versatility that made me kind of switch up my own mock rosters. I was like, yeah, I got Shaw going, but maybe she's not going as a forward. Maybe they're going to list her, as a midi here to kind of, have a little bit of depth across the lines. So I'm curious to see how it's going to look, because I think like going back to what I said earlier about maybe kind of being a bit of a possession-based type of player in stretches of games, I kind of feel like there's maybe similar profiles there for players, especially when we're looking at Dunn, now promoted at that, attacking line. So we've heard her say on an interview with us that she does have a preference. She loves being a 10. Shout out to Beach Dog Scout. Yeah, she's said it to to multiple people, including us, and we've got to see her there as well. So with that prior injury to Roosevelt, I think there were also some question marks around there too. Like, are we seeing a rise in positional preference here for on the national team level, how they're going to utilize her there? But I think that's part of it. That comes with all of the lore, right? And the aura of the U.S. women's national team program. Making sure that you're getting players in these positions at this point who can cross those lines, who can play in different positions on the pitch if you need them to, if you want them to be higher on that attacking line, or if you want them to be lower as a 10. So we've seen that with Jaedyn Shaw now. So I am curious, now that we're going into the Olympics and she's listed as a forward, what does that mean for the coaching staff in terms of depth? Is she your fourth option? Is she your fifth? Is she your third? Does she start a game in these Olympics if she's listed as a forward and you have others on this attacking line in Smith, in Swanson, in Rodman? So I think there's a debate
I think
to be
all
had
of
there.
the above. I think all of the above. I think
Yeah.
we will see her start at some point, but I also think she's going to be a game changer coming into any of the positions in the front line, even in the midfield, just to add depth. But the turnaround is so quick at these Olympics that you have to be ready to start, and you have to be ready to come off the bench in the 75th minute and make the biggest difference in a match ever. I mean, that's what is relied upon you as any of the 18 players going to Paris. But I'm excited to watch Shaw this summer and see what she can do at the international level. And there are times when I think about young players at just 19 years old and the stage being too big or the spotlight being too bright. That is not the case at all for Shaw. Yeah. She can handle it. If any girl can handle it, it is this girl, Jaedyn Shaw.
She's hanging tough. She's been hanging tough for a while.
Absolutely. Okay, that was fun. We did a little deep dive into Jaedyn Shaw, but we have NWSL action this weekend, Sandra. The league doesn't stop. It doesn't sleep. And we're going to preview every single match. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
There are some things in life that you can't quite explain.
An extraordinary story.
Maybe it sounds flawless, looks effortless, or makes you feel like a part of history.
The first ever goal for BFC.
And when all of those phenomenons come together, it's perfect. Pitch perfect.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Attacking Third. NWSL Match Day 16 is upon us, and we are previewing every single match. Let's start on Friday, Sandra, because on Amazon Prime at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, Portland Thorns take on the San Diego Wave, a very interesting matchup at the time in which this match comes for both of these sides. Portland Thorns, they are winless in their last 3 matches. They're coming off a 0-0 draw against Utah, and San Diego, they have hit a bit of a skid. They're coming off a 3-0 loss to Chicago, and under their first match with interim head coach Paul Buckle last weekend, we did not see the new manager bounce from San Diego at all. We actually saw the opposite, one of the worst losses that San Diego has suffered on the road, letting Chicago get 3 in on them. Now we see Portland go against the San Diego side on Friday night. When you take a look at this matchup, what stands out to you?
I think exactly what you just said, that this game is probably going to be viewed as an opportunity for both teams here, really all the teams this weekend, because this is it. There's going to be an Olympic break coming up for the regular season, and it's going to happen effectively after these games. Yes, we're going to have the Summer Cup, and we're going to talk more about that later on future episodes of A3. But as far as the regular season, this is going to be the final opportunity for a little while for teams to go ahead and stack their points or stack their performances, really. And I think for these two teams in particular, you want to have a response. I'm sure the Thorns are very much disappointed in the fact that they were the example team, that they were the team that the last place Utah Royals decided to have a response against. And I think this is in that moment of the season where we're starting to take a look at the separators between these teams. We saw a couple of weeks ago at this point that Orlando Pride said, we look at Utah as an opportunity here. We want to make sure we get out there on our home turf and finish, and they did, and put up a 6-goal spot against a bottom feeder team in the league right now. Utah's response was to play better and play more competitive, and they arguably had one of their best performances of the season against Portland last week, holding them to a 0-0 draw. An argument to be made that maybe they had the better play and could have got a goal. But if you're Portland, you're like, Jesus.
You're pissed off.
What were we doing? What were we doing? So they're back home. I have to imagine that they're looking at this game perhaps in a similar lens, that it's their opportunity for a bounce back performance. What's it going to look like, though? I believe Kelly Hubley's going to miss out on this game after yellow card accumulation. How's that back line going to look for them? Soph Smith, Olympic bound. These are the players that we want to keep an eye on too. Anyone who's been named to an Olympic roster before they have to maybe head off to international camps, they want to close out on good performances as well. So I think we're maybe going to look at those individual matchups in this one. You know, Shaw, Smith, you know, Gurma, Smith. Like how are these kind of 1v1s going to look? But as far as a pick, this one's tough for me. But I'm going to go with Thorns on this one. I think they're going to come back and respond.
I also am going to go with the home side in Portland Thorns. Just something about being back at Providence Park and having the vengeance in them to not be able to put away chances against Utah, right? As you mentioned, the worst team in the league right now, based on stats, not even my own opinion there. And they struggled, and they are going to want to bounce back on that and their opinion there. We didn't see the best from Portland last week against Utah, and I expect a big turnaround against San Diego, and I don't think San Diego can handle that. San Diego is just in such a flux right now. They are falling apart at the seams. They need someone to kind of come in and regroup, and maybe that is going to be Paul Buckle, the interim head coach that has stepped in, but there are a number of other players that should have a chip on their shoulder to outperform, especially against a Portland Thorns side that has so historically been good and gotten the better of San Diego in some recent matches. But I'm looking at players like Alex Morgan to step up and be a difference in this match and force change within the squad and within her team. But ultimately, I am going to go with Portland Thorns. They are going to get the win over San Diego Friday night. We'll see. We'll circle back next week and see how we do on our polls. Saturday, there is a slew of games. Let's start with Chicago Red Stars against Houston Dash. That match on ESPN. You can watch it at 1 p.m. Eastern time. Chicago Red Stars, this is a side that is coming in a big win for San Diego last weekend, and they're going up against a Houston side that fell to Kansas City 2-0. However, Houston has solidified a little bit more of their identity and what they're trying to do, building out with three in the back, Tarciane coming in along with Paige Nielsen and Natalie Jacobs in that back three for Fran Alonso at Houston. Looks like the puzzle pieces are falling into place, and there's going to be growing pains for sure. Tarciane didn't have the best match last weekend for Houston when they played against Kansas City, but still there were steps taken and forward progression that Houston has been hoping to see and hoping to find. But from you, Chicago, they're coming off a huge win and a shutout over San Diego. Can they do it again against Houston?
I hope so, but I don't know, just because of all the reasons that you just mentioned. Also, is this going to be a keeper's battle? I'm not too sure. We're going to have Nair, Campbell. I mean, these are two incredible keepers. They're also Olympic bound. So I'm a little bit torn on this one, but I know that Chicago just came off of this big win last week. It snapped a winless streak for them over the course of 5 games. And Houston at this point are now finding themselves on the end of one of their own. So they're winless in 4 games. And I think when you are one of those kind of lower half teams in this second half of the season, you're trying to snap those types of streaks. And I do wonder if going on the road, having a little less pressure away might benefit this Houston Dash side. Also, look, again, we're coming into games where players who balance both international duty and club responsibility finally have maybe some of those stressors lifted off of them. They know they've been named to rosters. They're excited about that. They want to have these good performances. So I'm also looking at Houston, who has a number of those Olympians as well, whether it's in Campbell or Tarciane for Brazil. So it's tough for me to go against the hometown team, but I feel like there's a lot here in the mix for Houston to come in here and get a smash and grab. So I'm going to go Houston.
Oh my gosh, Sandra, that's so crazy. I was going to go Houston, and I for sure thought you were going to go Chicago. If Chicago wins, I think I'll be happy for them,
Yeah, of
generally
course.
speaking,
I'll be
because
a winner either way.
I'm not a homer. I'm not a Chicago homer. I've got no stake in this game. Phillies just beat Dansby Swanson last night. Let's go. But I'm that kind of homer. But with this Chicago side, I just want Lauren Donaldson to do so well. And I want his game plan to work. And I want Swanson to have so much confidence, especially heading into an Olympics where she's back on the international stage. I want a lot for Chicago. And I feel like they've fallen really short this season in their consistency. They just go too hot and cold from one match to the next. And the fact that they got a 3-0 win over San Diego, I feel like they're going to be on a downward slope. I don't know why. I just
highs and lows.
Consistency is just not at all there for Chicago. So I am also going Houston with this one, which is crazy. I really just thought you were going to go Chicago.
Little combo breaker for you there, bud.
Yes, seriously. We are doing polls. If you're joining us live on YouTube in our chat, shout out to Mark, our producer, because he's putting every single match in the YouTube chat. The people think the Thorns are going to win, and they also think Chicago is going to win over the Dash. It's 80% people voting for Chicago. We'll see. Two of us here going with Houston. All right, more matches on Saturday. Angel City versus Gotham, 10 p.m. Eastern. This match is on ION. This is the second meeting between Gotham and Angel City. The first time they met in June, Gotham went ahead, a goal by Crystal Dunn. Then Clarice Lebion came back in the second half to equalize, and Rose Lavelle in the 62nd minute ultimately got the game winner for Gotham. And this Gotham side is one that is at a point in the season where we're starting to see all of the offseason work come to fruition. They're coming up a 1-1 draw against Seattle Reign last weekend, in which Gotham should have won. It was a late own goal equalizer that allowed Seattle to pick up points. Meanwhile, Angel City, they are coming off a 3-0 loss to Orlando Pride. I really enjoyed this matchup. It is now in LA, and I think that despite Angel City being at home and being so dominant when they play at BMO Stadium, you have to look at Gotham and the full picture of 11 players of 23 that are really coming together for Juan Carlos Amaros. And the style that we're starting to see Gotham play looks like they are flying high with confidence. So I have Gotham going on the road to LA and picking up a win over Angel City.
Shocker. Me too.
No way.
We're talking about games to respond. I need Gotham to respond too, because I know they are upset about how they closed out that game last week. They should have had the points, and I'm talking about separators at this point in the season. There are games that you have, like they just had, against lesser competition, and you look back at your calendar and say, what went wrong here? Mm-hmm. I also really, really, really like the combinations that we've been seeing between Rose Lavelle and Ella Stevens. I want to see more of it. Also, again, last time we're going to get to see it for a little bit until everyone kind of gets all back together in August. So again, this is a game that I think you look at and you say, we have to separate ourselves. And I mean, not just building points in the standings, but in terms of your profile as a contending team. You're the reigning champions. You're finally putting it all together. That super team is looking super at this point. Let's go Gotham. I hope they get the win.
Ooh, I like that shout out for sure. Interesting that we're both going that way. It's always crazy. Okay, moving on. Bay FC taking on Washington Spirit. This match is going to be on NWSL Plus, 10 p.m. Eastern on Saturday night. The second meeting between these two sides. They met super early in March in the season. Washington won 2-1 over Bay FC. And now, as the season has progressed, Bay FC is coming off a 1-0 win over Racing Louisville last weekend, and Washington Spirit fell 1-0 to North Carolina Courage. And this comes after the end of a Washington Spirit run that has looked pretty good and pretty consistent. From back to front, Washington Spirit has been able to put together really cohesive performances in their ability to build out of the back, to make decisions when to possess and when to work the ball around and when to just go direct. The playmakers at Washington Spirit are absolutely electric to watch, whether it's Croy Bethune, Trinity Rodman, Hal Hirschfeld in the midfield, the players, Courtney Brown coming in and being able to make such a difference in this Washington Spirit side. The depth at Washington has been outstanding. Now, Bay FC, they have Rachel Kudananji back, who is coming off of a rest week. She had yellow card accumulation last week for Bay when they took on Louisville, in which Asisato Shwala got her first goal since the opening match day of NWSL. So Bay is also starting to feel themselves. And I think Rachel Kudananji can cause trouble against Washington. But I just think that the young guns for Washington Spirit, Bethune, Hirschfeld, Courtney Brown, are too impressive to slow down and to stop. And I'm handing this one to Washington Spirit. Who do you have? Bay, Spirit?
I like that Bay is coming in on a very small win streak here. And I forgot which episode of A3 it was at this point where I kind of had them as maybe a spoiler. But turns out they're going to maybe try to stay hovering around that playoff line. So I like that they've also got a fierce weapon coming back in Kudananji. But I think if you're the Spirit, again, talking about wanting to have those separators, you have to look at the opposition in front of you and say, forget what they got going on right now. We need to respond. I also really need to see that separator and that they do take a look at a team that's in a different place on the table and just continue to put that away, because they've done that this season. Yeah. My problem with the Spirit is that they struggle against other contenders. They have a loss against the Thorns. They have draws against the Wave, who at one point were considered a contender. They recently lost against Gotham. They just dropped points to North Carolina Courage. So where is this team going to continue to maintain their level and pick up their points? They have to keep it real and say, at the teams that are doing worse than us. So I've got the Spirit also taking this one. I want to see that response. I want to see clinical finishing. I want to see, those good combinations, Rodman, Sar, Kruger connecting with that top line as well. So hopefully they continue to build off of what they've been doing, and they continue to rack up these points against teams lower in the table than them. So we'll see though. I feel like could be full of some surprises.
Oh yeah, especially with Kudananji back. I bet she's hungry to get some goals and impact matches. Bay FC, they currently sit 8th in the standings, just 6 wins, no draws so far, and 9 losses, 18 points. Washington Spirit, though, they're 3rd in the standings with 31 points. There are only 3 teams with 30 plus points so far in the NWSL season after 15 match days, which is pretty good. That's pretty impressive. Of course, Kansas City, Orlando, and then Washington at the top of that. Our poll on YouTube also says that Washington is going to get the win over Bay FC. On Sunday, there are a slew of matches. North Carolina Courage takes on Racing Louisville. That match is on CBS Sports Network, 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. Make sure you tune in and watch that. I think I'll be covering it. Can I drop that here? I'll be there. I'll be covering it, doing halftime and doing coverage for it. North Carolina Courage against Racing Louisville. Racing Louisville coming off a 1-0 loss to Bay FC, and North Carolina Courage picking up their first road win of the entire season, thanks to an Ashley Sanchez golazo from distance that she earned over Washington last weekend for North Carolina Courage. But between these two sides, North Carolina Courage back at home against Racing Louisville side that it feels like they've been on a downward slope. Sandra, what do you make of this match?
Oh, goodness. I believe in Racing, but at the same time, we see these performances and I'm just like, do I? Like, what's going on here? It's tough because I think, especially when we're comparing halves of the season, this was a team that had a bit of that bite to them. this sort of refuse to lose type of energy. And I'm not saying that that's gone. I'm just saying that they've got 3 losses in their last 4 games.
Yeah.
So some of that is tough to swallow. I think if you are a team that is sitting just below that playoff line. So again, responses. We want to see that. But I think going up against the Courage is going to be a tall order. It's going to be a difficult task here because this is another team that's trying to separate themselves, I think, from those kind of middle, sort of lower mid playoff position kind of teams. And look, let's be real. When it comes to talking about the Courage or covering the Courage this season, they've done better at home than they've done on the road. So I'm gonna give that advantage to them as well. And I'm gonna say maybe they get another narrow win, and this time it's against Racing.
Ooh, okay. I like that. Shout out for North Carolina getting the win at home. Racing Louisville will have Erin right back in the back line. She was serving her red card suspension last week. And sometimes when you, as a player, when you watch a full match from the sideline, knowing full well that you are not getting into it, you have a different eye and a different vision as to this game. And Erin Wright, such a smart, intelligent player, defender, that she might have tweaked things with Bev Yanez. And there might have been conversations about, hey, how can we solidify ourselves and make sure those holes don't happen and make sure gaps don't open up, especially against really dynamic front line that North Carolina is going to throw at us at home in front of arguably one of the best 12th men in the entire league at Wake Med Soccer Park with the fans that show up and carry. How can Racing Louisville kind of stifle their offense? And I don't think there's going to be a lot of goals, but I do think this will be a draw. Ultimately, I think that these teams are going to split points and that Bev Yanez is just not going to roll over and that she needs results because you're exactly right. Winless in 4, one of those being a draw in the last 4 that, or the last 4 that Louisville has played, they need points. And this is a game where you can just say, okay, like let's really focus on one side of it. And that's going to be defense for Racing Louisville. I like this matchup, 4:30 p.m. Eastern on CBS Sports Network. Be sure to watch that. And then rounding out the weekend on Sunday, Seattle Reign versus Utah Royal, 6 p.m. Eastern on NWSL Plus. Seattle against Utah, Sandra. Utah coming off arguably their best game of the season, a 0-0 draw against Portland Thorns, where they shut out Golden Boot contender Sophia Smith. But meanwhile, Seattle Reign, they got a come from behind late 99th minute point and a goal against Gotham just to scrape by. But these two teams are struggling between Seattle and Utah. It's almost like who is the lesser of two evils in this match? What do you think?
I'm in pain just thinking about it. I just, look, who among us doesn't love a wooden spoon battle? And that's right now at this moment of the season is what
sometimes it makes for the most exciting matches.
Right now, it's you know, the previewing part of it is like where we're like, oh, how's it gonna look? But you know, coming off of a couple draws, again, these are two teams who I'm sure do not want to have, you know, fighting for last place as part of their narrative this year. So like you said, I think it's going to maybe provide some chaos at the very least. I don't know about good or fun soccer, but it's going to provide some chaos for sure. But eventually I had to pick a draw in one of these, and I think I'm going to save it for this one. So I hope it's a high scoring one at least, because I would love for players to get out there and have some fun in this one. But I don't know if there's enough on either side to actually tip the scales here. So I'm curious what you think and even what the poll says.
Okay, interesting. So you think that Seattle is going to pick up their 4th draw in a row?
Yeah. Pain.
Absolutely pain. Okay, so they shout out to Jen Cooper, who does our stats for NWSL, and she just knows everything about the league. She has an almanac. If you're into it, go buy her almanac. It's so cool. But she puts out stats, and I feel like for the last month, which has been because that's how long it's been since Seattle won, Laura Harvey has been sitting on 99 wins.
Oh my goodness.
99 wins. One more and Laura Harvey gets her 100th NWSL regular season win. And
Man,
I think that is going to happen against Utah.
I hope
I
so.
foresee Seattle being able to turn a corner and coming off of the pressure that they put against Gotham to end their last match and ultimately get a point against Gotham in the waning minutes of that match just gives you a surge. They're now at home going up against a Utah side that, although has looked better and may have a new coach bounce. Remember, Utah Royals, after their last match, they said goodbye to their first head coach, Amy Rodriguez, and they now have an assistant stepping in as the interim head coach. There could be a bounce, but between a coaching battle, I'm going to take Laura Harvey over anyone, even giving the
Fair.
team a bounce and everything. I'm going with Laura Harvey on this one, and I'm going with Seattle. The results on YouTube say 63% Seattle Reign, 31% Utah, 5% draw, which
go.
I think, if I'm scanning through all these poll results, is the closest in the polls that we have come
Okay.
for all of these matches.
Right on.
Now, if anyone's paying attention, that was only 6 matches. We have the biggest NWSL match of the season, arguably right now, before we get to playoffs. Kansas City Current against Orlando Pride. This match is Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. You can watch it on ION. 2 undefeated sides finally meet over halfway through the NWSL season to go head to head at CPKC Stadium, a stadium in which, Sandra, has been sold out for every single one of Kansas City's home matches this season. 8 consecutive home matches, over 11,500 fans packing CPKC Stadium. Kansas City coming off a 2-0 win over Houston, in which Temwa Shawinga recorded 2 goals, a brace about 3 minutes apart, and she took the lead in the Golden Boot winner. And now Kansas City extends their unbeaten streak to 17 games without a loss. Meanwhile, Orlando Pride, continuously unstoppable, coming off a 3-0 win over Angel City. This is it. This is the big kahuna, Sandra, the biggest game of the weekend. Who stays undefeated?
Oh my goodness. I'm here for it. I feel like I love the segue that you just did, because we just did like the wooden spoon battle game between Seattle and Utah, where I was like pain. But thinking about this game all week, I've just been like, joy. This is what dreams are made of right here, right? Look,
This is why we do it. This is why we're here every Wednesday at 11 a.m. because of
100%.
this, the excitement of the sport.
Incredible storylines going into this one. 2 teams building very special journeys this season. And I know we're doing this before there's like availability reports and things like that. But I think even with what we know coming off of last week, there's more than enough across the rosters of both of these teams. Maybe it's going to come down to that. Maybe it's going to come down to the depth. Who has the most betcha? Who is the coach that's going to make the correct adjustments when needed? But I also think there's also the possibility that it could either be really high scoring or really, really low intense.
Oh,
If this is the possible playoff preview or championship preview, which I'm sure we'll talk about later, but I think that kind of stuff comes into play as well. Is there going to be a coaching staff that finds themselves holding back a little bit, maybe where they don't want to show too much? I hope not. I hope everybody gets to show. And for this one, staying in the Midwest, Lisa, going with KC. They've got the hometown behind them. And I also think they have a little bit more to prove after the recent announcement of the championship site, which we'll talk about. So I'm going to go KC in this one.
wow. Okay. I love the shout for Kansas City. You're sticking in the Midwest. You're sticking with the home team. Chloe joining us on YouTube. She's pretty happy about your pick with Kansas City too. I'm not going to bury the lead. I'm going to go Orlando. Orlando Pride has been so dynamic, and they just have so many different threats, right? And numbers wise, yes, Kansas City is at 17 different goal scorers and they've scored the most goals and they're at the top and they have all these points. But there's this element of like chaos that Kansas City has with them that makes it super entertaining. It's so fun to call the games and it's so fun to watch them. And any fan that's at CPKC is just going to go absolutely nuts. But there's this element of like anything could happen in this match. Whereas with Orlando Pride, you know what you're going to get. And that's what is so scary because every single team knows exactly what to scout, who to look out for, the different areas and the rotations that Seb Hine is going to roll out with Orlando. And they still can't be stopped because they are so clinical and so efficient in what they do. And the goalkeeper battle between AD Franch and Anna Morehouse on these sides is going to be very impressive to watch. Anna Morehouse just got her first senior national team call up to the England to be a Lioness. That is huge. To feel that sense of pride heading into this. Yeah, shout out, Anna. Congrats to you. This is a match where Adriana is coming off of a brace. They have so many different Brazilian national team call-ups. Marta is looking to be in her best form ever at this point with Orlando. There is just so much depth and different angles that Orlando can attack this game that I'm going to give it to the Pride. Now, it is absolutely possible that this match ends in a draw and both teams stay undefeated because that's how it happens. And then it comes to their second meeting of the season, potentially. The people joining us live on YouTube are all about that. They're like, this could be absolutely hilarious if it ends in a draw. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see. Saturday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. You can watch it on ION. The results for this match, 50% say Orlando Pride is going to win. 43% say Kansas City Current. And 7% say it is close. Going to be a draw. Super close. That's close. Super close. Those 7% that are voting it's going to be a draw. Y'all are crazy. I love it.
Let's get a 10-goal game. 5-5. Let's go.
5-5. I hope that would be absolutely awesome. Watch all the matches this weekend across the NWSL, especially North Carolina Courage against Racing Louisville, 4:30 p.m. Eastern on CBS Sports Network. Don't go anywhere. We've got plenty more Attacking Third for you. We're rounding up the latest news and notes from the last week. See you soon.
At CBS Sports Galazzo Network, we're bringing you the game.
Madness of Messi arrives!
Breaking down the game.
This is unlike anything else in the world.
And changing the game.
Get it all for nil.
That means free.
Wow.
And all day long!
24/7.
Hey, welcome back to Attacking Third. This is our In Case You Missed It segment where we round up all the latest news, notes, transfers, anything that has happened in the last 7 days that hey, we haven't had a chance to talk about yet. The biggest news, Sandra, dropping this morning, Wednesday, July 3rd, straight from Commissioner Jessica Berman's lips. The NWSL Championship match is set to take place at CPKC Stadium in Kansas City, Saturday, November 23rd. You can watch it live on primetime CBS, kickoff at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Absolutely massive for Kansas City, for the Longs, for the league, for the Missouri River to hopefully get some more balls in it. A lot to come in this NWSL Championship being set at CPKC Stadium in Kansas City. Sandra.
Thrilled. I want to cue up our producer, Mark, because I think he should do another poll. I think he should ask the audience if Attacking Third should go to the championship final, and we should find out what people think. That being said,
absolutely. Would you join us if we did a live show? Would you come hang out with us? Would you chat with us if we were at CPKC Stadium? Let us know.
Yeah, let us know. Take your vote. Vote, folks. I'm thrilled. Look, maybe this has been a bit of an open secret for some time. If you've been tuning in to the NWSL weekend, week out, you remember that opening weekend. God bless, co-owner of Kansas City Current, Brittany Mahomes, kind of mentioned that the stadium was in the running because that's part of it. There are bids that have to take place to be the neutral site of an NWSL championship. You have to bid for that. So the fact that they were pretty open about that, I think is maybe catching the diehards not by surprise. But I think even for casuals, I think this is a lot of fun. Look, they're promoting week in, week out about how they're getting constant sellouts. They sold out every home game to date. We just got a River goal. That was incredible. I loved that so much. There's nothing I love more than NWSL lore. And that absolutely is part of it now. Shout out to Emma Chewinga for getting the ball into the River. But look, this is the home of the longest unbeaten team right now. It's going back 17 games at this point for the current. They are doing something very special and very incredible this year. I'm sure they're going to be even more motivated to get to the big one after this has been announced. But I love it. I know I'm going to want to go no matter what. No matter what the poll says, I'm going to want to be there. Let's go get some barbecue. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the motivation for Kansas City to make it to the NWSL championship is that much higher, but it's so kismic that this announcement comes and Kansas City are unbeaten and they are at the top of the standings through 16 weeks. And they've stayed at the top of the standings that they are going to host the championship. I mean, how cool is that? If this was like last year, right? Kansas City, like struggling throughout the season, a lot of ups and downs. It is just so perfect how this all came about. I had the pleasure of chatting with Commissioner Jessica Berman this morning on Golazo Network for Morning Footy. And I asked her pretty much straight up, like, hey, Kansas City's been selling out, but it's not even 12,000 fans. What do you expect in the championship? And she said, like, yeah, how great is that? It's going to be the loudest stadium. And she's not wrong. I mean, she's such a professional and I love everything that she's done since she's taken over as commissioner. But she did say there are some things in the work to make sure that the stadium can fit and have capacity for the fans that want to be there and can be there. And there is an element to making the NWSL championship so exclusive and that there can only be 11,500 fans there. That is so exclusive to get there. And it's cool. I'm really happy for Kansas City and the stadium that they've built and the facility and that they get to show it off to the world come this November, Saturday, November 23rd, live on primetime from CPKC Stadium in Kansas City on
CBS.
Let's go. All right, Sandra, there's been a lot of transfer news that has happened around the world, including Spanish international forward Mariona Caldente signing with Arsenal. This comes after Caldente's contract with Barcelona expires. Caldente spent 10 years with Barcelona, making her debut in 2014 at the age of 18. She's won 25 titles in Barcelona, 6 Liga FA titles, 3 Champions League, 6 Spanish Cup, 4 Spanish Super Cups, 6 Catalan Cups, 302 appearances, 114 goals, and she became the club's 5th all-time top scorer. She has taken the talents to the Super League and Arsenal, and of course, she is a World Cup champion and a Nations League champion. Look out, Arsenal. Look out, Women's Super League for Mariona Caldente. Elsewhere in Europe, in Lyon, they have signed their superstar, Tabitha Chewinga, the forward through 2027. She is the Malayan international and sister of Temwa Chewinga, who plays in the NWSL in Kansas City. Liverpool signed Canadian international midfielder, the youngster Olivia Smith. She comes from Sporting CP for a club record fee of €250,000. Olivia Smith is just 19 years old. She can play midfield. She can play forward. She spent her first professional season in Portugal, Sandra, and Olivia Smith was named best young player of that league. It's been fun to watch her at the international level with Canada. She's not going to the Olympics with Canada, though, but you can watch her with Liverpool next year. Spanish international forward Alba Redondo moved from Levante to Real Madrid. This is a world champion with Spain. She's been with Levante for the last 5 seasons, scoring 28 goals, and now you can watch her at Real Madrid. Defender Dominique Janssen joins Manchester United from Wolfsburg. This comes on a 3-year deal. She is a Netherlands international. She has played previously in the Super League with Arsenal, but she spent the last 5 years in Bundesliga with Wolfsburg. This is a very interesting timing for Janssen to join Manchester United because United's gone through a bit of the twister the last couple of weeks. They've lost captain Katie Zelm. They've lost goalkeeper Mary Earps. The club was then removed from their training facilities into portable trailers to accommodate the men's team. Now they get a pretty top-notch defender. This is positive news ultimately for United, right?
Yeah, I think maybe it's a little bit of a band-aid too. I think if you're finding yourself as someone who's, a supporter, a dedicated or a longtime supporter, or even just kind of a casual fan of Man United, because watching some of these headlines week to week, you're like, what's going on here? And then the fact that they're getting an incredible player, a veteran player, and Dominic Janssen from Wolfsburg, where she's been for a very long time, I think is big. And we've heard about in the past how Mark Skinner has talked about this club needing to be active in the transfer market. And while maybe they were on the opposite side of some headlines recently, now they get to have one of their own and say, hey, this is still a place, a brand, an icon of a club where players who have experience in Champions League and elsewhere in the international stage want to come to. So I think it's massive for them.
In Olympics news, we are getting roster. Today is actually the deadline for Olympic rosters to drop ahead of the 2024 Paris Olympics. But Brazil announced their 18-player roster. Several notable names, including 7 NWSL stars, defenders Tarciane, Raffaelli, midfielders Adriana, Caroline, Marta, Angelina, and Lauren will be there as alternates. But Marta, heading to her 6th Olympics, 38 years old. She's announced that this is her final international tournament. We can discuss at a later date if we think that's true, if she's going to come back for the World Cup in Brazil. But ultimately, she's going to the Olympics, her 6th one. The leadership is there for Brazil. However, Sandra, Kansas City forward Debinha is left off of Brazil's Olympic roster. What are your thoughts?
I think Debinha is going to go off this weekend. That's what I think. And I think if you're the Pride, you're like, hold on a second here. Tough, though. I think, look, Olympic rosters are hard to crack. I think we've been privy to that for years now at this point. We launched A3 ahead of the Tokyo Olympic Games. We're back at it covering another Olympics. We know how tough it is to make those rosters. And I think maybe the combination of Debinha having to navigate some injury in the early phases of this season might have played a role in that. But I still think there was enough there to her to make a case. So it's very surprising for me to not see her on there.
Absolutely shocking. And the fact that Caroline is on this list means
Yes.
that perhaps her recovery from her ACL tear, which came at the very end of the 2023 season for North Carolina Courage on undecision day at the end of the year, she's going to the Olympics.
A lot of question marks for sure. Yeah.
Clearly she is coming back stronger than ever, and she looks good in training and whatever is happening, because Autor Elias naming Caroline to the list and not Debinha. They both should be there, frankly, but interesting. No Debinha. We'll see how she goes off this weekend with Kansas City. All right, we are closing out on a little bit of rumor news. In March, it was announced that San Diego Wave owner Ron Burkle is selling his club, and there would be some changes, but there's some other news with Angel City and their sale and everything that's happening. Break it down for us, Sandra. What's happening with sales of clubs in the NWSL, specifically Angel City? Are we close to a new owner?
They're balling out of control. I think my reaction to some of this, because this broke last night, that Disney CEO Bob Iger and Willow Bay were close to a purchasing control of Angel City. And I think maybe that part wasn't so shocking, because earlier in the year, there was some reporting around the fact that the ownership group was looking, to maybe get a sale of sell off a controlling stake of the team. But I think the shock value came in the group that it is, because it's tied to Disney, number one, and number two, the valuation point at $250 million. So it's close. It's at the line, but it's not quite done yet. I think they're trying to find the right pen to go ahead and sign it, right? So $250 million is another World League type of figure. It was just in March where you were referring to the Wave and Bay FC and all these different valuations. This is blowing those out of the water at this point. And we're just talking, a few months later. So we'll see. I'm sure we'll get more information when they do find that pen, and the ink is actually dry on it. But we'll also see what it looks like in terms of the resources and how that's going to benefit the club. You know, am I going to get a Star Wars kit? Am I going to get an Ursula kit? I would love
Right.
to
Like
see.
we could have a Disney Angel City crossover. That's
We'll see.
nuts.
We'll
Talk
see.
about
We'll see
the
how
NWSL lore. That's crazy.
Yeah, we'll see how the whole competing entities thing works out for them, but we'll I'm sure we'll find out more.
Definitely entertaining, keeps us on our toes. Okay, that was really fun. Special honorary mention, shout out, happy birthday, Crystal Dunn. And I want to give a reminder to everyone that there is no Thursday show. Happy 4th of July. We will be celebrating with fireworks and hot dogs and all the things. We will be back in studio on Monday, July 8th. And thank you, everyone that listens to us. Don't forget, we are nominated for the People's Choice Podcast Awards in the category Best Female Hosted Podcast. You can vote for us. Go to podcastawards.com/app/sign up. You toggle down to the sports category and then click Attacking Third for Best Female Hosted Podcast. You can scan the QR code now if you are joining us live on YouTube and vote for us. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening. Make sure you follow Attacking Third wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a 5-star rating and review. We're also available on youtube.com/Attacking Third, and you can watch us on the CBS Sports Golazo Network for all your women's football coverage. For Mark, Sandra, I'm Lisa. This was Attacking Third.